Clara Thompson stood in her small kitchen, the morning sun filtering through faded gingham curtains, casting a warm glow on the cracked linoleum floor. At 65, her hands were rough from years of labubu as a farmer's wife, then as a widow pouring every ounce of her energy into keeping her family's legacy alive. The Thompson farm, 80 acres of wheat and soybeans in rural Butler County, Kansas, had been her late husband Tom's pride, passed down from his grandfather. Since Tom's death 5 years ago, Clara had made it her mission to ensure their son, Ethan, could carry on that legacy. She'd cashed out her modest pension, dipped into Tom's life insurance, and skipped her own needs to pay off Ethan's equipment loans, cover his overdue bills, and buy seed when his budget fell short. Today, like every Wednesday, she packed grocery bags for Ethan's farm-fresh carrots, canned beans, a loaf of her homemade sourdough, and an apple pie baked with the last of her Granny Smith's. It was her ritual, her way of holding the family together. Clara's knees ached as she loaded the bags into her rusty '98 Chevy pickup, the truck's engine coughing before it roared to life. The July heat was already oppressive, the Kansas air thick with the scent of dust and wheat. She drove the 10 miles to Ethan's farm outside El Dorado, her mind drifting to the sacrifices she'd made. No new glasses, despite her blurry vision, no doctor's visits, though her joints screamed. No quilting, her old passion, because every dollar went to Ethan and his wife, Melissa. She told herself it was worth it. The farm was their heritage, the heart of their family. Ethan was trying, wasn't he? He was just young 33, newly married, learning the ropes of a tough business. When she pulled into the farm's gravel driveway, the fields stretched golden under the relentless sun, but the place was eerily quiet. No Ethan tinkering with the tractor, no Melissa tending the vegetable patch. Clara hefted the grocery bags and headed toward the barn, her boots crunching on the dry earth. The barn door was ajar, and inside, the air smelled of hay, oil, and something new-polished metal. Her eyes landed on a gleaming silver RV, parked in the shadows, its chrome trim sparkling like a mirage. It was brand new, with sleek lines, tinted windows, and a logo that read Thompson Family Farm Outreach. Through an open door, Clara glimpsed leather seats, a flat-screen TV, a mini-fridge stocked with bottled water. Her heart thudded. She'd given Ethan $12,000 last month for a new irrigation system. Her savings, scraped together from years of frugality, were nearly gone. Where had this come from, Mum? Ethan's voice cut through her shock. He stood at the barn door, his lanky frame silhouetted against the sunlight, his brown hair matted with sweat. Melissa hovered behind him, her blonde ponytail tight, her arms crossed. "Ethan, what's this?" Clara gestured at the RV, her voice steady but edged with steel. Ethan shifted, his eyes darting to the ground. "It's for the farm, Mum. Outreach, you know. We're gonna take it to markets, promote our organic produce, build the brand." Clara's grip tightened on the grocery bags. "With what money? I gave you every cent I had for irrigation. You said you needed it to save the crops. Melissa stepped forward, her smile thin. Practiced, Clara. We got a good deal. It's an investment. You always say the farm's our legacy, right? This'll help us grow. Clara's gaze was fixed on Ethan. The irrigation system, Ethan. The one you said was critical. Did you buy it? The silence that followed was heavy, filled only by the distant hum of cicadas. Ethan's shoulders slumped. He couldn't meet her eyes. In that moment, the weight of her sacrifices crashed down on Clara. The blurry vision, the aching joints, the years of scrimping and saving it, all culminated in this gleaming, unnecessary symbol of betrayal. She set the grocery bags on the dusty floor, her movements slow and deliberate. The apple pie is still warm, she said, her voice flat, devoid of its usual warmth. I used the last of the Granny Smiths. She turned without another word and walked back to her truck, each step an effort. The engine coughed again, a sound that mirrored the brokenness in her chest. As she drove away, she didn't look back. The image of the RV, a monument to her son's choices and her own misplaced faith, was seared into her mind. Back in her quiet kitchen, the familiar space felt alien. For years, this room had been the heart of her service to the farm, to her son. Now, it felt like a cage built of her own sacrifices. She sank into a chair, the silence amplifying the questions racing through her mind. How many times had she ignored the small red flags, the vague explanations for where the money went? The way Melissa's eyes would flicker with something unreadable whenever Clara handed over another check. A week passed. The phone didn't ring. No apologetic son appeared on her doorstep. The silence from the farm was a deafening confirmation of the new reality. One morning, Clara woke up and looked at her reflection. She saw a tired woman with faded dreams. The farm wasn't her legacy anymore. It was a burden she had carried alone. She had confused her love for Ethan with a duty to his inheritance. With a newfound clarity, she made a decision. She called her old friend Betty, a retired real estate agent. Betty, she said, her voice surprisingly firm, I need to talk to you about my house. The next day, Betty came over with a stack of paperwork and a compassionate ear. As Clara laid out her situation, Betty nodded grimly. Honey, you've given enough. It's time to live for you. Selling her home was a painful but necessary amputation. It was the last tie to the life she'd built with Tom, a life centered on the farm. But as the for sale sign went up, a strange sense of lightness filled her. She found a small, sunlit apartment in town, just a block away from the local library and the senior center. With the proceeds from the house, she bought new glasses. The world snapped into sharp, clear focus for the first time in years. She made a doctor's appointment and finally addressed the persistent ache in her joints. One afternoon, she walked into a fabric store and let her fingers trail over bolts of colorful cloth. She bought a sewing machine and began quilting again, the rhythmic hum of the needle stitching together the frayed pieces of her own life. She wasn't just Clara, the widow, the mother, the benefactor. She was Clara, a woman with hobbies and friends, a woman rediscovering her own worth. Months later, her phone rang. It was Ethan. His voice was strained, panicked. "Mom, the bank. They're talking about foreclosure. The RV payments are killing us. We need your help." Clara listened, her heart steady. The old instinct to rescue him, to sacrifice herself for the farm, flickered faintly before extinguishing. She thought of her new life, of the quilting group she'd joined, of the simple joy of reading a book without squinting. "Ethan," she began, her tone calm and measured, "I can't help you." A stunned silence met her words. "I gave you everything I had. You made your choices. The farm, the RV, those are your investments. And now they are your responsibility." She could hear Melissa in the background, her voice a sharp, urgent whisper. Ethan's voice came back, laced with disbelief. "But the farm is our legacy. It's everything." "No, Ethan," Clara said softly, but with the unshakable strength of a woman who had finally claimed her own life. "The farm was your father's legacy. My legacy is the love I gave you. And now my legacy is learning to love myself. I have to go. My quilting class starts in 10 minutes." She hung up the phone, a quiet finality in the click. Looking out her new apartment window, she saw a group of friends laughing on their way to the coffee shop. The sun was shining, and for the first time in a very long time, Clara felt a deep, abiding peace. She had lost a farm, but she had found herself, and that was a legacy worth saving. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think of Clara's decision? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.